Okay, well, didn't see that coming. Hey everybody, this is Benny, and here we are again playing Icarus. Today I'm going to tackle a subject that has been bothering me for a while now. Why does the Vapor Condenser seem so underwhelming? It's a Tier 4 device after all. Shouldn't the reward be much higher considering the cost to build it and the effort required to defend it? I only tried this mechanic a couple of times a while back and didn't really give it much of a chance again before this video because it seemed way too much work for the potential payout. But I have a lot of respect for the Icarus devs. Rarely have they spent time building a system into the game that didn't pay dividends to the prospector willing to put in the time. I figured I had to be missing something. And I was. Sort of. The Vapor Condenser is a late-game device requiring a fair amount of planning and resources to run successfully for the average player. It's a device for extracting exotics and enzymes from these geysers located all over the map. When the geysers erupt, they can be seen from a fair distance away. This makes it fairly easy to locate them while out exploring. Here's the journal entry for the condenser. To build it, you'll need 20 composites, 40 copper wire, 10 electronics, 12 glass, 8 steel screws, and it'll be assembled in the fabricator. So I planned this video to just be a short little demo on how to run the device and survive the process. Figured I could knock it out in a day. I ended up running it 5 times. It consumed 3 days of recording, research, and experimentation, and then another couple days for editing and doing graphics. And I learned that the mechanic is considerably more complicated than I had anticipated. The first run was before I even started recording, just to make sure I had the process down. I used this first run to sort of tune the defensive design that I had in mind, because the first time I ran this a few months ago, it was an unplanned and uninformed disaster in which I lost my device within minutes. The second time I thought was going to be the main run in this video. I had a new design that I thought was going to do the trick. But as I was defending the condenser, I realized there was a couple of things I could do to improve the setup. It was successful, but it still required a lot of concentration and ammunition. I wanted something that was a little easier to try and make this worthwhile. The third time, I moved from inside the box to on top the box. This is when I realized that, with a little more tweaking, this could actually be a profitable endeavor. I was averaging 40 to 50 exotics in 6 to 7 minutes. That was on track to outperform any other method I had for grinding exotics. But at this point, I had no idea how this whole thing worked. And so then, for the fourth time, I was ready to show what I thought was going to be the best way to do a condenser run. But it didn't go as planned. Mobs tore through my concrete box mid-second wave and destroyed the condenser. I was obviously missing something. So, time to do some research. I dived into the woefully outdated wiki, scoured the internet, and tried searching through the dev notes from the past updates. And if you've ever tried to do that, you know what a chore that is. Here's what I learned. It turns out that the process of running the condenser is more complicated than just turn it on and defend it until the run ends. In actuality, there are 9 waves to a full run of the condenser. They're in 3 groups of 3 waves each, with the condenser shutting down between each run. Each group of waves is more difficult than the last, with the levels of the creatures increasing each time. After 3 groups of waves, the condenser will only produce enzymes and not exotics until the geyser resets. The whole process is reset every 3 hours, just like any other exotics-based system. And this is what had thrown me off at first. My very first run was done right before I reset. So the next run seemed to be exactly the same as the first run, but I had actually just started a new set of waves. Next, I learned that the reward for each group of waves increases. So for each completed set of 3 waves, you receive the following rewards. This info seemed to be correct, though I haven't tested it, and it did come from the wiki, so no guarantees here. I did all my runs on normal difficulty, and I was solo. Lastly, the creatures and quantities you encounter will differ by location and number of players. The more players, the more creatures in a wave. Here's what we're facing in this video, and seems accurate at least for the forest biome. I haven't tested the others. Notice that this thing really is capable of churning out considerable exotics while also helping to fill out some of your journal entries, grind XP, and supply you with more animal byproducts than you can possibly carry without assistance. But it's dangerous, and by no means easy. So let's start with my latest setup here. Then I'll walk you through the run, and at the end we'll take a look at the numbers. So this is my fortification setup. Originally this was supposed to be a simple concrete box, but during my previous attempts I discovered a serious flaw in concrete walls that makes them almost useless for fortifications. So let's look at the concrete wall quick and the wood fortification side by side. Now let's start shooting the concrete wall and see what happens. Well, that's not good. The durability, which is 4,000 for concrete, hasn't even taken 25% of its damage yet, and already my wolves can walk right through it. Now the damage pattern isn't the same every time. Sometimes it does take longer for a hole like this to appear. But all it takes is this happening once during a wave for a creature to get through your defenses and destroy the condenser. That's what happened on my fourth attempt. This right here is unacceptable for use in that situation. Now let's go ahead and fire some shots at the wood fortification wall. So far, no passable holes. Let's keep going. All the way down to 8% and still holding off animals. On top of that, fortifications have a starting durability of 5,000, which is already 1,000 more than the concrete wall. So let's take a look at my setup here. For this build, you'll need 3 wood wall fortifications, 1 wood gate fortification, 3 wood walkway fortifications, and some kind of ladder. You're going to build the box like this, put up the 3 walkways, and then the ladder. Notice I did not use wood wall spikes. I chose not to use them because the tamed wolves will sit right down in the spikes, taking damage without a care in the world, yelping the whole time, which, even if I wasn't worried about the hit points of the wolves, drives me nuts. For equipment, you'll want a firearm or other ranged weapon that you're comfortable with, enough ammunition to get you through a couple runs, and a repair hammer. I suggest you bring the best hammer that you can craft, or the best workshop hammer if you have access to it. The next key component is wolves, at least 3 of them. Now, of course, you could have more, or you could have different types of combat teams, but these 3 have served me well, so that's what I'm going to use. Next, check your buffs. Make sure you also have your oxygen, food, and water taken care of. Okay, let's fire this up. When we're done, we'll go over the results, and I'll share my ideas on how to make this actually worthwhile. To start the device, mouse over it, and hold your interact key. This first wave is going to mostly be wolves with a couple of alpha wolves tossed in here and there. I'm not wasting any ammo on the regular wolves because I already have my forest wolf journal entry at 100%. If I get an opening, I might take a shot at one of the black wolves, but I need to make sure I'm not hitting one of my own wolves or the fortifications, which is kind of easy to do. Mostly I want to concentrate on using the hammer on the tops of these walls to keep the box in good condition. Next wave is jaguars and occasionally black jaguars. I do need these for the journal, so I'll take a few shots. You don't have much of a window to do so since you won't be able to see your target once they get too close to the wall. Don't feel you need to use up ammo though if you don't want to. You get journal entry points for at least hitting the animal once and for skinning it. So even if you don't take a single shot, you can still get some points just by cleaning up afterwards. If you're just in it for the exotics, however, you don't even need to leave the fortification, or maybe even to fire a single shot. As long as you have the stamina for it and your hammer has enough durability left, you can just keep restarting the condenser at the end of each set of waves until you've cleared all 3 sets of 3. Alright, here's the final wave. Bears and bear cubs. Again, I still need some journal points, so I might get off a few shots here and there. It always amazes me how these tamed wolves can just destroy bears, considering the wild ones wouldn't stand a chance against a bear. I hope they give us a chance to tame bears someday. Wouldn't that be something? Maybe a good combat and riding mount, right? Riding bears? That would be cool. Riding bears would be cool. Please, devs, let us ride bears. Heck, even bear cubs would be cool as pets, right? Have a bunch of bear cubs following you around. Alright, and that's the end of the wave. Total time for a third group of 3 waves is 7 minutes. And let's see what we got. So 55 exotics and 9 enzymes. Not a bad haul. So then I went back and I checked my haul and times from the previous runs. My 9 wave total was 152 exotics and 26 enzymes, completed in 21 minutes of total fighting, 7 minutes per group of waves. Really not a bad haul at all for the amount of time and resources spent. So is it a viable method for grinding exotics? Well, yes and no. There's going to be a lot of downtime in between if you only farm from one geyser, since you have to wait for the 3-hour reset time. You could set up multiple outposts around the map just to run these, and they could be fairly near to each other just because of how many geysers there are. But even so, it's going to take a lot of gamer endurance to sit around for hours on end and just hammer on walls and occasionally shoot at some wolves here and there. I think the best use of this is as a supplemental exotics income that you only worry about every few hours of game time. For me, I'd rather just sit around and watch an extractor run than have to deal with the stress of putting this whole thing together. But hey, I've heard a lot of people say that they really didn't like just standing around waiting for an extractor and thought that that was a boring way to make your exotics. So here's a viable alternative for you. Go out, seek out these geysers all over the map, put up your structure, run those for 20 minutes, make your exotics. It's definitely a viable method. It's just, for me, it's too high stress and too high risk. It's really easy to lose that, to lose the whole thing just by not paying attention for a moment. So to each their own. So there it is. Finally got to the bottom of how to run this thing correctly. Decided that it's not as bad as I thought it was. Found some serious flaws in the concrete walls. And, managed to have a little fun along the way. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a really great day. And until next time, Benny out.